Ingleside was fantastic. He started off with Patrick, and Patrick eventually wrote to the breeders and said, look, this horse just hurls himself down every time we try and take him out in the mornings. Please come and take him back. And they said, well, we're not taking him back. You bought him. But he persevered, and he was, I think when Patrick left, he was sort of just maturing. He'd won a race or two, and then Mike took over, and Mike won 4 group races in a row with him, and I had already at that stage left. And I'll never forget, we were sponsoring the Rugby International. We sponsored the series in the UK. They call it the Winter Series or the Autumn Series, I'm not sure. And England play South Africa, Australia and New Zealand sort of in quick succession. And I had to go to one of the games. I think England were playing Australia or New Zealand. And I had to go and join the chairman of the rugby union in England for lunch. And I said, you know, they're very prim and proper. And he said, exactly at 1 o'clock we'll sit down to lunch. Said at exactly 1 or maybe 1:15, whatever it was, the horse was running. So I said, sir, please, you have to give me a couple of moments to listen to this race. So they suspended lunch, a big moment. And, well, I don't have to tell you, the history speaks for itself. And the horse won the Summer Cup. I wasn't there, sadly. I didn't even watch it. So Ingleside was one of the horses I remember. Sudden Gold was one of my first successes. By Zamfa, I don't know if anyone remembers Zamfa. Was also a great moment for me. I've had many. I've had wonderful moments of success and wonderful moments when, you know, you've got to be big enough to walk over to the winner and say, well done, great run. Kantor obviously brought me a lot of pleasure. King's Apostle won a Group 1 in Deauville. But funny enough, when my horses win group races, I am never present. It's the most remarkable thing. You know, I just don't have the time to travel all over the place to watch him run. But that's a very prestigious race, and he's a real, genuine, strong, tough son of King's Best, who's the son of King Mamba. I love King Mamba, absolutely love King Mamba. There are 2 horses I dream about. It's King Mamba and Nuria. I absolutely love both of them. There have been many. Those are some that come to mind. In South Africa, obviously Irish Flame. Larry Nesta called me and said, would I take a share? I'd be delighted to take a share. And won the Derby for us up in Johannesburg. And in fact, went with Mike to Dubai and had a bad season in Dubai. You know, Michael's the king. I don't argue with him. I said, Mike, he doesn't enjoy the game. He says, don't worry, we'll get him back. And he did. He got him back in the UK. The horse won a very impressive race over the right distance. And I see he's gone back to Dubai now with Michael. I said, Michael, you've got one chance. If he runs 15 lengths again, Brian, please don't do it to him. So we have an agreement. Let's hope that the horse does better than he did last year. Yeah, you know, I think we have to thank Raymond van Niekerk, who's head of our marketing team. He makes it look as if we spend a fortune on marketing, and that is the key to any good strategy. But really, the value we get for money is remarkable. On our board, in fact, I was invited to the Derby many years ago, and I sat at the table with a guy called Sir David Prosser, and David was on the board of Epsom. We needed, when we listed there, we needed some directors, English directors. So I phoned him one day. I said, Sir David, can I come see you? He said, yes. What is it about? So I need to talk to you about Investec. He said, pleasure. I went up and saw him. And we invited him onto the board, which he accepted. And when they were in trouble 3 years ago, they never had a sponsor. I think Vodafone withdrew their sponsorship. I don't know how you withdraw your sponsorship, quite frankly, of the Epsom Derby. To me, one of the greatest races in the world. And they were in a bit of bother, so they had to find a sponsor quickly. We made them an offer for 5 years, which they accepted. And from that day on, Raymond has worked with their marketing team, and we built it up. I think the first year, the year before we took over, there were 75,000 people present. And the year we took over, it started building, and in fact last year there could have been about 130. So it's getting back to its rightful position. We've been lucky as well. I mean, the weather's been good. We've been quite lucky with the weather, which always helps. We've had some great winners, See the Stars, Workforce. You know, it's just a great event. And yes, it does. It makes a huge difference. We had a product, a deposit product, which when we sponsored it for the first year, they were battling to raise retail deposits. When I say battling, we didn't know what the potential was. There's an account called the Hi-Fi. And what we did was we said, well, let's give it a bash over the Derby period. Because at the Derby you find really, you have two types of people that go there. You have all the real followers of racing, and mostly in the UK, I would say upper echelon, high net worth individuals, and you have the gypsies. So you've got this incredible contrast. And we launched a serious campaign over that time, and the amount of money we took in, we eventually had to stop it and say it's enough, we can't take more. So yes, it definitely does make a difference if you use it correctly. If you just do it and leave it, there's going to be no benefit to the sponsor. But if you put the effort into it and really work at it, then you will see the benefit, no doubt about it. I'm not sure if I'm at liberty to mention this, but we have just called them in and said we've just agreed with them that we'll have it for another 10 years. I'm absolutely delighted about that. Delighted. And in fact, I've got the chief executive, the chairman, coming over for the Met, for the Investec Derby, and I'm hoping that we can maybe do a reciprocation with them. I don't like to hold any titles. It's not for me. I am a relatively simple sort of a guy. I just love the breeding. This tie-up and association with Klavervlei, I couldn't dream of better. I mean, Marcus's vision is just remarkable in most things that he does. And John is just the most passionate, professional, modest, humble human being. So it's just an absolute privilege to be involved with them. And the beauty of it is not run in a manner which is sloppy. There are proper board meetings. There's a proper chairman, Johan du Plessis, who runs a proper meeting. Everybody's passionate about it, gets heated at times. There's proper debate. There's proper thought goes into it. And on top of it, it's your hobby. So it's just a great privilege, I must say. Look, I think again it was the vision of some of the breeders, and Marcus grabbed the bull by the horns and said, look, we can do it better. And I think they've done a great job in last year and the first year that we did it. I think this year will be much better. You can see the catalogue. I saw a copy of the catalogue. It is just brilliant. It's fantastic. Robin has done a great job, and I know Grant Knowles is overseas at the moment, marketing the sales. And the whole idea is to give people internationally an opportunity of a lifestyle difference. So come out, buy a couple of horses. When you buy in sterling at 13-1, it's really not that expensive. And at Klavervlei, I know we want to put up cottages so they can come and see their horses and their babies and walk around and see exactly what we're doing. And then we'll, the horses will move on to trainers, and they'll have a reason to come. Not that you need a reason to come to South Africa or Cape Town, another reason to come. And we can combine it into a very serious package for people who enjoy racing and enjoy this magnificent country of ours. The problem, of course, is the exporting of horses. Patrick called me and said, look, last year he was a big buyer, but it's very difficult to convince his owners to buy again if the horses are going to be trapped. We need to resolve that issue. It's a serious problem, and we need to encourage the authorities, together with our veterinary services and SA Racing, to sort this issue out. It's just a matter of finding the right solution that will go down with the international community. And I think this sale will fly. In fact, I'm so keen on it that I try to take the sales away from Tattersalls in England. I mean, that is really messing with tradition. But I think if they had an inner city sale in London, as we have in Cape Town, I think it would be mind-boggling. So we'll work on that as well. It's all a good challenge. The breeding industry is fascinating. Number one, you meet incredible people. You really do. I can't tell you the wonderful people I've met in my life through the racing and the breeding industry. Number two, if you have a computer and you want to understand and study bloodlines, it becomes passionate. It's something that you just can't stop. You know, you've got to look back and you try and find the nicks and what works and what doesn't work, and you try it, and you know, there's an old saying, the best to the best that you can afford. And it's just fascinating because a lot of these horses that I've won with are actually bred. Now, you need a bit of luck, but, you know, as Gary Player says, the harder you try, the luckier you get. So I think it just offers you everything. It's an intellectual challenge. You create friendship. You enjoy the racing. Winning is fantastic. It's like watching your own children run. So there's just... It brings about everything, you know, and if, especially for people from outside of South Africa, it is just such a magnificent country. If you can tie it all up and give them a lifestyle change, I think that it's a win-win situation.